right, so we're a few miles outside of Blanding, Utah. It's about 20 miles south of Monticello, where we were at the golf course, just to situate yourself. And, you know, on the drive down, I was checking in electronically the way you probably shouldn't have, but I did. And someone had shared a tweet that said, well, moving forward, we should just have a system with all our biological functions are monitored 24/7 and like managed by artificial intelligence. And this tweet had like 1,900 retweets or whatever. And my response was just no. Because essentially what's behind me here is the Energy Fuels Resources Center, which is, I think, the only licensed facility to process uranium here in the United States. It's the largest processor of uranium. And within this whole, the past 2 years narrative of what is happening, I'm convinced that we actually don't really fully understand what is happening and what we're living through beyond mass trauma of mind and body. And I lean more into the space of looking at environmental poisoning and looking at how this interfaces with advancements in nanoelectronics, nano and biotechnologies, and the relationship to frequency and energetics, including radiation. So we're on the lands of the Mountain Ute tribe, the area around here. These people, along with the Navajo further south, were dispossessed from their lands in the early 19th century, pushed out because of that they were trying to hold on to their identities and their culture and their sacred lands, but also because people wanted access to these lands for mineral extraction, for rare mineral. They wanted to see what they could find here. Now, eventually the Navajo were allowed to come back, and there were sort of breaks in tribal relations during the Second World War in terms of access to this vanadium and later uranium and what it meant. You know, and that's, again, one way of fragmenting cultures against themselves, the economic development opportunities, the patriotism, the story that's being sold against individuals who felt very strongly that there was this sacred material that was very unique and special that could conceivably have been the remnants of a dying star supernova that should not be disturbed and should be respected for its place in the environment as it is. So this area of White Mesa, it's called White Mesa Mill, was established pretty much at the tail end of the Cold War. It was started in 1980, so this is already well past the core area of uranium processing that happened here in the 50s and 60s. That was already tapering down, but by 1980, they started it up again. And the community was led to believe that this was only temporary and that this facility would be like a 15-year program. And they said that the radioactive waste containment systems only had one liner separating it from the natural world, from the aquifers, 2 layers of aquifers that fed the sacred springs to the native peoples here and the groundwater supply. And that there were no installations in that first construction zone to detect leaks of radioactive waste onto the land and into the water systems, right? And then that the people who lived around here, often there would be terrible smells, sulfur. They could tell that they were being poisoned, and that the original people who would traditionally hunt and gather herbs for medicine and to be in communion with nature, they had to give that up because there were deer that would jump the fences and that the meat would be green. And that's and that the sagebrush that used to be a deep turquoise would dry out and die back. And so all of their access to their resources were being poisoned. And so these are the things we're not talking about while we're talking about whatever we understand COVID to be, is that there's a whole view of that our lives are energetically connected with the nature, and as we poison nature to wage war, to say that we're going to come up with more sustainable energy, we're actually harming ourselves. And so until we understand the nature of what we're dealing with, and a lot of it I believe is a soul sickness that goes back to what we would lead, the people who believed this facility would be here for only 15 years, now there's an area of several hundreds of acres, the equivalent of 300 plus football fields of radioactive waste in the lands behind here. Just stop and think about the scale of that. And we're in some hidden corner, I mean, not exactly hidden, but some quiet corner of Southeast Utah. And the people in Washington and the people in Manhattan, they're not thinking about blanding Utah. They're not thinking about the impact of traditional cultural ways and the attempted erasure and what that means. They're not thinking about any of that. And they're only thinking about the bottom line. Because the earliest prospectors who came here in the 1940s looking for uranium deposits here in North America, they knew what they were looking for and they kept it secret, and they had shell companies that were backed up to New York City. And Prescott Bush, the patriarch of the Bush presidency family, he created a vanadium mining corporation that was hidden behind various shell corporations to get this uranium. And what I didn't realize until I was sitting at the kitchen table this morning was that Prescott Bush was actually born in Columbus, Ohio. Now, Columbus, Ohio is the home of Battelle. Battelle was managing the uranium production for the Manhattan Project. So it's intimately connected, this vanadium, the uranium, the Bush family, the Manhattan Project, the poisoning at mass scale due to the bombs that were dropped, the poisoning from mass scale to the test bombings that happened all over Utah that gave people cancer, people who were patriotic citizens giving their all for this country, and then the long-term legacy of the environmental toxicity of the radiation from removing this star in another phase of its life that was in the earth and bringing it back out into an untoward use. But Prescott Bush is part of that equation, and Battelle is part of that equation, and now Battelle is managing 8 Department of Energy labs, okay? Including Oak Ridge, where a lot of this uranium was sent at the time during the Second World War to be processed. And the people in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, they built up a whole town to do this processing. And they didn't tell the people there what they were doing. They just said, do your job. Just show up, do this part of this job. It's for the war effort. It's for the right reasons. And people did the job, and it was only after they dropped those bombs that most of the people actually found out what they were a part of. They didn't know. And so I'm trying to show up, we're all trying to show up to say, we're building something that is profoundly beyond our understanding, our ability to control, that has the potential to wreak devastation of not just human life, but natural life across this planet as we know it. And some people do know, because the Japan Moonshot Project is unfolding now, with goal number 1 being by 2050, we live outside the physical limitations of a body and mind in time and space. By 2050, that is their plan for the grandchildren, the toddlers, the people that are coming up now, that they will live as a cyborg under Society 5.0 cyborg avatar capitalism. This is the Japan Science and Technology Agency. Only it's not just Japan, because its partners include our National Science Foundation. Our National Science Foundation that was established by Vannevar Bush, who I believe was a separate Bush family, but he came out of the war effort of managing the radiation, and he was part of a group of people who felt that atomic energy, radiation, uranium would be used for defense, for energy, and for health. This went back to the 40s. This was part of the selling point that Alexander Sachs for Leo Szilard and Albert Einstein to get the Manhattan Project started. Albert Sachs, who later became the main economist behind Lehman Brothers, who was an advisor to the Office of Strategic Services that evolved into the CIA. He's going to Roosevelt with this letter and saying, you need to get this uranium, you need to start these war projects, not just for defense, but for health. And then Vannevar Bush, who was intimately connected with that, established the National Science Foundation. And then fast forward to 2021, or December of 2019, actually, right before the lockdowns were called, the Department of Energy was in Tokyo at the launch of this event. And I'm trying to remember, I think his name is Chris Fall, the head of science for the US Department of Energy. And he stands in front of the audience and he says, I'm not really here. I'm just a very sophisticated hologram. Ha 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 ha. Like literally. And this video only has 200 views. It's in circulation. I'm not making it up. Our Department of Energy goes to Tokyo and jokes about being a hologram Because by 2050, they want us all to be holograms. And that essentially entails disconnecting us from the natural world, severing that connection, severing that relationship. And this, what is central, is the fight of the original people of these lands, the Navajo people, the Hopi, the Ute, all of the people onto these lands who were protectors of the sacred minerals, the animist view of life as interconnected beingness. And all that has come after that is to erase that off the planet. And they do that through poisoning people on purpose. And they start with the original people here, but it's coming for everyone. It's coming for the children who live off of the Superfund site golf course. It's coming for everyone because they want us to shed our physical bodies, our ability to live in the world according to natural connectivity, and to supersede that with an engineering program. And they call it sustainable. They're going to sell it to you as sustainable. They have a whole new nuclear program. The other model, which is like salt molten reactors that they were presenting at the Mormon Transhumanist Conference. They were presenting, oh, look, you can have your own nuclear energy program in a cargo container, and you can run your own little smart grid blockchain villages off of this freight container nuclear power. It's clean. It's great, right? And so meanwhile, we've got 300 football fields of nuclear radioactive waste, which now actually, as of 2021, there are plans to bring it radioactive waste from Estonia. Estonia, the first digital nation. Estonia, where they named their artificial intelligence law Krat law, which is the Estonian equivalent of the golem, the object built of bits and pieces that comes to life to do your bidding. They're bringing it from Estonia, the digital citizens here. Why would they bring 5,000 miles radioactive waste to Utah? Because I believe that this is a ritual desecration. This is a ritual desecration of artificial intelligence, of this Scandinavian, and you know, honestly, I've come to feel that there are things in the energetics of the space of Scandinavia, of the Northern Lights. There is something in that energy that is not right. That is in man's manipulation of that they are bringing this here. Because this is important. There's something really important about the lands that are now Utah, the lands that were the Ute and the Navajo, of severing that connection and getting us into blockchain and turning us into a cybernetic model of existence and putting us in a box and putting us on a shelf. And then by doing so, bit by bit by bit, reducing the natural life system and weakening it and weakening that fabric and having something that is a much more mechanical system take over. So I guess I will just say the other thing about Battelle. Battelle is actually central in Partnership for 21st Century Skills, which is this lifelong learning program, which is about character education. You know, these are partners with Disney and Crayola, and they want to come into your kids' schools and tell them how to act and behave because they actually want your child to be a character in their holographic game. They want to steal their agency and steal their birthright of being the interconnectedness of the real world. So Battelle is all of those things, and it's connected to Prescott Bush. It's connected to intentional radioactive poisoning of the people of Utah, of the original people here, and of nature. So I'd just like to read a few poems. I have my John Trudell book, Lines from a Mind. And I really do believe that he and Tina, they're the voice of this. And, you know, I feel very much I'm trying to walk in that footsteps and do justice to all the sacrifices they made to tell this story. Again, they were situated as Indigenous people, and that is not me, but I'm trying to carry these words forward because they're not here anymore to tell them. And for whatever reason, I can see that this is the story. This is the story. So I actually have 4 poems. They're relatively short, but I wanted to read these at Alta, and the snow was snowing sideways, and I had to do what I needed to do then, and I got the basics down, but maybe I was meant to read these here because the central piece of what John Trudell spoke of was mining the being part of human. Mining the being part of human and desecrating the life of stars. So this one is called Good Thoughts. Raven brought beaded serpent and the Alaskan thunder. Realities yet to come. Good thoughts our good way, life. Wrapped in the universe, the unborn sleep in dream time. Day in the sun is on its way. Think good thoughts, thoughts of lightened mind. Dream, dreams, dreaming brings sense, rush of newfound find. View where harmony sing. Follow the sky into the blue. You are part sky, and sky is part you. There are stars that bring the night, and there are thoughts that to bring clear sight, and thinking good makes for strong heart, nourishment for spirit and soul. A good path, a good way to give. Belief creates what we believe. Good words, good thoughts, good actions, a way human beings live. Raven brought beaded serpent and the Alaskan thunder. Follow the sky into the blue. You are part sky, and sky is part you. Okay, so I have a couple more. Because I do think, and I'm here with my friend Cliff, and a lot of it is this: we are connected in this universe energetically, and they are looking to control our energetic systems, right? They are looking to control us. We have this bioelectrical nature. We're water, right? We are electricity, and we can, through our thinking, create the world. And that is this reckoning that has to happen. So I'm telling you these stories that are hard. These are not easy stories to know that your country might poison you and your children to accomplish some end. To know the harm that was done to people who did nothing other than to live on their lands and live their culture. They're not easy. But if you understand it as a system and that we all have our place in the system, and that maybe this point in time in the system is to surface the stories in a way that we can, through our acknowledgement, move beyond them into something better, that will build something better with our good thoughts and our actions, that's central to this poem. Okay. So this is called One of the Colors. Happiness is how we feel about ourselves, the good we think, the good we do. We are part of the dream time. Happiness is one of the colors. Now there are shadow casters who trick us about happiness. We are taught to wish for things to make us happy. We are not taught to dream for happiness itself. We can't buy happiness, and we can't sell it, we can't steal it, we can't borrow it, and we can't capture it. But we can create it. Love can't bring us happiness, but happiness can bring us to love. Power can't bring us happiness, but happiness can show us power. On the line of what is real and what really isn't, dream for happiness. Somewhere between heart and mind, the spirit of life can be seen. Happiness comes in a way to dream. Okay, and this is the third one. I have 4. Material junkies. Cliff, can you hand me that? Yes. So when we walked up, so, here we're energetic. So we've got a smashed big size Budweiser can, all right? So this is representing the not good ways of thinking, but I think it is relevant. It's the soul sickness, right? The sickness that has poisoned a lot of families, my own included, right? And so we're seeking. Material junkies hold out hands, praying hard for a better deal. Card holder smiles and shuffles away. His luck just gets better every day. Somewhere between darkness and light, a shadow where nothing knows right. Someplace at the cross in a dream, someone is dirty, the image unclean. In the act of one way or another, junkie needle ravages the mother. Rationalized minds craving the high, progressive race is choking the sky. Crooked eyes see only crooked fears, and water's song plays to deaf ears. Yesterday's child betrays tomorrow's child, chasing a fix that only lasts for a while. Held breath awaits the next move. Lightning dancer is laying the groove. Cool thunder comes riding the flash. Becoming a storm predator can't pass. And within the grasp of the fiery feather, there is a thread that pulls it together. In the chasm between motive and intent, there's a thread that pulls it together. And I think that's the thread that brought me here. From standardized testing and standing in 440 North Broad Street in the Philadelphia School Board building to the outskirts of Landing, Utah, is that thread to follow. Okay, so this is the last one. Some people say we are born. Some people say we enter this world. Some people say we die. Some people say we continue on. There are crazed humans out there. They exist mad, as in possessed. Something is never enough, and they forget how to be fair. Crazed humans want to own everything, no matter what they have to do. Money and things become their drug, driven, not caring about being. In madness, crazed humans, poisoning the water and the air, disrespecting the mother. Crazed humans are going nowhere. Children of the earth, be careful. Doing one's best is very good, and mistakes are part of the lesson. We are sunshine and clouds, and we are water in rivers flow. Remember the mother. Crazed humans forgot her. Crazed humans speak of me and mine, disregarding the us and we and ours, propagandizing not to care, brainwashing not to share. Some people say we enter this world. Some people say we continue on. And so, early on in all of this, when everyone was focusing on the health stuff, and I knew it was much bigger than the health stuff because I came in the education door and then walked into the health room, but I knew it was a much bigger house that we were dealing with. And I used to say that I feel like it's scrappy moms against AI, right? Not exclude dads, but scrappy moms against artificial intelligence. And that I really wanted, as we understood, the Japan Moonshot project of cyborg avatar capitalism doesn't stay in Tokyo, right? If we're going to port all over in our holographic realities, it's the whole world. Now, they're going to say, folks are going to come at us and say, oh, we want world peace, but it's a fake peace. It's a machine peace. And so I'm trying to get at the heart space of those of us around the world that we need a global peace movement against artificial intelligence. And that is at the core of this. And what's at the core is a war on natural life itself through energetics, all in the name of progress. So I'm going to leave one of my moms here. I have 3. I make more of them. And it says love. There's a little heart, and my friend Lori gave me these when I went up to speak in Utica last year. And I've left them places. We left one on the creek, the Battle Creek outside of, in Salt Lake City, the first massacre of the original people by the LDS settlers there. And we left it on the branch, and so I'm going to leave this one here as an energetic imprint. And I'm going to leave it up by the fence. I also have 2 more things. I have a woman sent me a package. People have given me things to make these offerings. And she said this bit of ribbon, which has these little crosses on it, little geometric, that it's from a dress from her childhood, probably over 60 years old. And she wanted me to have this. And so I feel like a lot of times we place our prayer flags, right, our intentions on things and let the wind, because this is also a very windy place. We passed a lot of windmills, these giant windmills out here. So we're going to let it blow. And then this is a bit of cloth that I was gifted at a Sundance on Cheyenne River Reservation in 2020. And it was very special to me. And I quilt. And it was really amazing to get this fabric that is the the star systems and the universe and the cosmos, right? And they didn't know I quilted, right? They gave me sage and this fabric. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is because the Lakota are the star people. And this story of uranium and war and death is a story of the star and our relationship to the star and our disrespect of that. So I'm going to tie these two to the fence. And then I have a bit of sage and a bit of cedar shavings here in my bowl. And this bowl is attuned to the beauty frequency. And I'm gonna leave this as an imprint to blow in the wind and understand that our energy, the energy that is the pure energy, is the energy of the heart, of the soul, and of our connectivity. And it's not this facility. It's not this sham. So this looks like a good spot. This has natural findings inside, sewn inside with all the good intentions of love. We're gonna put remember the mothers. We'll tie the ribbon. Okay, I'm gonna tie just about the stars. Okay, and I'll